Yes.
Cool.
But I think it's good to have like one medium because then it's concise.
Yeah, you really just have to focus. It's better.
I don't have the woman power to do more
You
of
do
that.
have the woman power.
Don't have the time, but
Yeah, there you go.
How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna jizz.
All right, guys, welcome back to How Come. This episode is going to be, it has to be great because I have tried to record with Ariel Elias, who is sitting here with Molly Rubenlong. They run an amazing podcast called Well Behaved, which is about outstanding women in history that we never hear about. They're both comedians. And yeah, I've tried to record with Ariel 3 times now.
This is the third, yeah.
So third time's the charm, or
when I came in, I was like, or 3 strikes and you're out.
yeah, or we're no
We'll
longer
see.
friends. We're also sitting here with Instagram feminist Instagram blogger. She runs an amazing Instagram account called Girl Power Supply. Jen Winston, everyone.
Yeah.
hi guys. First time in the house.
First time, long
First
time.
attempt, and we did it. So
I know. I think you'll be our good luck charm.
Don't jinx it. You can't say we did it before we've done it.
that is a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and-
last time we kept talking about how great the episode was. I think that was really our downfall, honestly.
Yeah, no. Last time, Ariel's mom was here because she was visiting, and the last minute, Ariel was like, "Can I bring my mom?" And I was like, "Why not?" Like, she's a cool lady. Like, it'll be cool. And she was cool. She
Yeah.
told us a lot about the '60s and
Yeah, man.
feminism back then. And then my dad walked into the apartment. And
Great.
he got on the pod, and he gave me the worst sex talk I've ever had in my life.
He was very confident about it, though. It was like very
Extremely-
confident.
And I was like, oh
Horrible
my God,
advice.
like you're a lot of what's fucked up. with my sexual health.
At least you have it on tape to like.
I don't.
reference.
well, that's the
That's
thing.
the thing.
It got deleted.
No, I literally was like, well, that's a great place to wrap up, and then went to press unrecord or whatever, and my foot knocked out the
Plug.
the cord, yeah, and then it was just like,
Well, now you will never know what not to do.
Yeah.
it's funny because I've done it twice.
The first time, though, we hadn't really like delved in very much yet. We had
No.
recorded for like maybe 10 or 15 minutes when you were like,
Oh shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I cried. I already talked about this because this last episode initially it was me, John Fugelsang, and Ariel.
And Christian.
And Christian
was there,
Finnegan.
too.
Yeah, I just had them back for this last episode. We talked about Christianity. I was like, the women's rights ones should be with all girls anyway.
Yeah.
It was Lady God being like, listen, you're
No
talking
dudes
about
allowed.
women's rights with 2 men.
Yeah.
And then they're like, not even your
Yeah.
dad's allowed.
Yeah, not even.
Try
Yeah.
again.
Get your dad off this fucking podcast.
That is what did it.
I do
Literally.
love that there is this sex podcast happening in
my grandmother's house.
though. It's
great.
kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
You'll meet her after this.
Oh, great.
Yeah, she'll ask you everything. She'll be like, "You a comic?" Oh, thank God. So Jen, I wanted to start with you because we already know everything about each other at this point. How did you get started with your feminist blog Instagram
man.
account?
That is a great question. I think that, like everyone, I was in a deep state of mourning after the election, right?
That's
like,
you only started after the election.
yeah, I started it 3 days after the election.
Wow.
Shut up.
I just had no idea what to do, and I was just like posting all this like shit on my personal Instagram, and all my friends were like, "Whoa, I did not know that she cared." But I felt like I'd been reading about like feminism and stuff for a long time, and I had like gradually opened up to the term. You know, I grew up in Indiana where that was not a thing. In fact, I think I like used that word to,
As
like,
an insult.
yes,
Yeah.
to refer to like a specific type of woman like all the time.
Yeah.
That I you know, it's kind of crazy to look back at that and be
I've
like,
done it
wow.
recently, and I have to check
Yeah.
myself. But it's just because of how, like, it used to be like, ugh, fucking feminist.
Yeah, and it still is for so many people. So I think I had sort of unlearned that and was like so excited about that and was like, yes, like now the whole world knows that. I just kind
Yeah.
of assumed, like everyone did, that the world was reading media at the same pace that I was, and was like, oh, like these liberal social ideas, I understand them now. But that was not happening.
Yeah,
And
it was not.
we all learned that in a great on a
in a great way.
Great way.
And it's only gotten better.
Yeah. I mean,
Honestly, America is great again. I don't know about you guys, but
it is.
Well, we
Yeah.
were talking last time about how what's it called? Progress, because we were talking about in the podcast that
What
doesn't
is it?
exist, that you guys don't remember, but we do. I was saying, I was like, this is like the fourth wave of feminism, and it's like the ebbs and flows. Where are we going in the ebbs or whatever? And Ariel said, I think that progress isn't linear.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm the first person to say that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
Obama never said anything.
Nobody's
like
ever
that.
said progress.
did he say?
It's an Obama quote.
Nothing I've ever said
Yes.
is original.
That's okay. You accidentally quote Obama. That's
I mean,
not a bad thing.
It's just I think I got it from like a dream from my father, and so I just like keep saying it. But yeah, it is like, yeah, this idea of like when like we learn history, it's this thing of like, well, that first we didn't have rights, and then we did, and then more people had rights, and then these things happened, and so we became this, and it's like that's not how it happened at all.
Yeah.
And
No.
that's like something Molly and I have learned from our podcast, Well Behaved, is that like there are so
plug.
many. Thank you so much. I really worked it in there seamlessly, but like there
well
were
practiced.
And our podcast, Well Behaved, available on iTunes.
Rate and review
and subscribe.
and subscribe.
But this, like one of the most like jarring or striking women who we learned about was this woman named Madame Restell, who was an abortionist. And it was like, obviously a lot of things were much more strict. It was illegal. But then for a while it wasn't. And then it was again. It's just like, it's weird because you don't learn that part. You just figure like,
I didn't know that.
everything was like bad.
And we're in the clear.
Yeah.
Like, every time it's like, oh, we've taken a step. Okay, good. We'll never go back.
Yeah, and there's completely like that narrative around slavery, for example,
Yeah.
and racism. It's like, oh, racism is solved. Great.
Yeah.
It was like,
you know.
you need to learn about like the post-Civil War South. Like that shit got real bad.
But it also
nothing-
got like not good, but like Reconstruction was a time when there were more black people in office than there are now.
until
Oh,
the funding
really?
left
Wow.
until the funding left for it, and then suddenly
And then
like
Jim Crow
all,
took
right and
over.
how like most Civil War statues and like Confederate statues in the South were actually built in like the 20s because it was like
and
right.
then like, right.
and like then again in
in
like
the
the
60s.
50s and 60s because it's like they were built as a symbol. They weren't built
Being like,
right
"We're
after
back."
the war.
Right.
Yeah, it was like they were saying something with those, So
Damn, and that narrative like completely gets
it's very
swept under the
confusing.
rug.
Yeah.
because I do think it's true that it's not linear. Again, to reference your brilliance.
Thank you.
But
I made a brilliant point that it was like retrograde.
it is.
You're going back and everyone's sad.
Yeah, yes, the world is in retrograde right now.
Yeah.
Earth is in retrograde.
Is Earth ever in retrograde? What is retrograde?
Okay, so
When it-
retrograde.
sorry to cut you
for
off, but
a brief astrological
Thank
lesson. You know how planets orbit around the sun?
Right.
Yes.
If you
Familiar.
believe in science,
Right.
we all orbit around the sun. And
Controversial, but okay, go on.
controversial topic, right? And
All the
literally,
flat-
there's fucking flat earthers. Okay, it's insane.
Yeah.
But so it goes around in a circle. Some planets go while they're going around, they do little circles. So they're making like 8 circles in the circles, and when the planet is
little
moving
loop-de-loop.
backwards within that loop-de-loop, that's considered retrograde.
And does the Earth ever go in retrograde?
I don't think so,
I don't think
but
we
I'm
do.
not sure.
I actually
What does it mean? Like, remember in your late 20s, everyone's like, "Is it Venus is in retrograde? What's in retrograde?
Mercury.
Mercury.
Yeah.
Mercury is in retrograde."
like it's just like if you find that like you're fighting with a lot of people or you're just angry, or I find this when I'm like in like really shitty times, I'll look up, I'll be like, is Mercury in retrograde? And I'll be like, yes, and I'm like, okay, that explains everything.
That's so weird.
It's like when you find out that you're on your period. Okay, that's why I'm
Yeah,
fat.
I am
and
always
sad and-
exactly.
So relieved when I get my
Yeah.
period.
then when I just feel fat and sad and I'm not on my period, it sucks.
it is that is such a clarifying.
Then I'm just
feeling.
fat and sad.
Well, then I'm just like, oh, I must be in one of my depression cycles. Like,
There's
always
some
reason.
cycle that'll.
Yeah.
Give me a
Something to
tarot
blame
card
it
for
on.
that.
I mean, our uteruses are at the, we're at the
Whims of the
whims of the moon.
Yeah.
Is that how we get the word womb? Whim and Moon?
No.
Now it is.
I mean,
No,
maybe.
No,
not.
but maybe that's why we have ebbs and flows. The moon. Okay.
Yes.
But to get back,
This is a coven now.
Yeah, I was like, I assembled the smartest, most feminist women I know, and we're like, how's the moon?
Can you explain astrology to me? I don't
God.
get it.
Crystals.
Okay, but to go back to, so you were like, you felt like you were bothering people on your own by posting a ton of
Well,
shit?
yeah. I mean, this is actually a great segue because I do feel like Trump. I saw a protest sign at the first Women's March that said, "Thanks, Trump, you made me an activist."
Yeah.
And I so deeply resonated with that because I was like, shit, like this was a good thing.
Yeah.
This horrible man really woke me up, and it took this supervillain to help me learn all this stuff.
We were comfortable and complacent, and like, I always thought that like, oh no, like older men have our best interest at heart.
Totally.
That seemed, it seemed obvious. I was like, why wouldn't they want to make sure we were healthy and happy and like,
Man.
It's funny because hearing that sentence in
Now.
Trump's America is
Yeah.
absolutely the first episode of Handmaid's Tale. Like it is a horrifying statement.
Yeah, dude. Man, I never thought that because my mom is such a feminist. She hated Woody Allen before it was cool.
Okay, nice.
She's like a hipster.
That's another thing now that I feel like I'm struggling with as a feminist. Like, is trying to dismiss
artist.
all these bad men.
There's
Particularly
so many of
rappers.
them.
Like I just keep being like, oh man, this song is fire, and then being like,
Oh, he just hit his girlfriend.
yeah. It's like
I actually I had a really weird moment a few weeks ago, and I talked about it on the Patreon thing because I wasn't like really ready to discuss it yet. But I saw Louis C.K. and David Cross in Washington Square Park, and I ran after them to tell them I love them. Like it was just something in me that was like, "Go, you love that!" Like I do. I love what
Their comedy.
Louis was my fucking inspiration.
Yeah.
Like his show, like I was like, nobody will ever get me. The way that he portrayed his feelings and stuff, it was such a fucking. I literally had to go to therapy and have my therapist talk to me for an entire hour about why what he did was wrong and why he can't be exempt.
yeah.
It's really shitty.
Yeah.
It's hard because you let these people and their art into your heart, right? Like you sort of like you let them influence you.
Yeah.
And then you have to stop when you find out how the person behind that art.
Yeah.
And like you know, like we can talk about like separating the art from the artist and blah blah blah, but like the person who made that art is a fundamentally very flawed, fucked up person, and also robbed you of other art from people who he hurt.
Totally.
And yeah, I was gonna say it's like separating the art from the artist, but what about separating the artist from the people the artist ruined?
Right.
Like that's like nothing that we ever talk about. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I just want to. I had an interview and they were asking like, how did you get into comedy? And I was like, well, honestly, like it started because I listened to this comedy podcast that I like when I was in college, and they just talked about like, you know, if you want to do stand up, you just go to an open mic and start. And they were like, oh, which podcast was it? And I was like, oh, it was The Nerdist with Chris Hardwick. And I was like, God damn it. And it hadn't fully occurred to me that that's what got me into comedy in the first place. Like that's what changed the whole trajectory of my career.
Right.
Is this guy who like mimicked he was just like awful.
Yeah.
So like it's hard.
You know what Chris Hardwick did?
No, I don't actually.
He
It's hard to keep up.
essentially, yeah. Oh, my cat just joined us. This is Grace.
Hey, Grace. I bet
Welcome
you've
to
never.
the Crystal Circle.
Is this a female cat?
masturbated.
Yeah, she's a female
Okay, good.
cat.
I don't want her to ruin our podcast.
She's part of the coven.
Wait, what did Chris Hardwick do?
So what Chris Hardwick did, he essentially like enslaved a woman.
Whoa.
Well, no. I mean,
That's a gross oversimplification.
okay. So, yeah.
No.
Do you want to
So he was in a relationship with a woman for a while and was very controlling, and there was manipulative would like make her stay in the hotel room the whole time that they would be at conventions, and she herself is like a Comic-Con person. There was an incident that some would probably call rape. I don't think that's up to us to decide what it was, but it was for sure not 100% consensual. Like yes was not being said.
She wrote like a really, I forget her name, which is
Chloe Dykstra.
there we go. She wrote an incredible like account of her experience in this relationship, and she never names him, but it's like very obvious. It was
And
like
she doesn't name
immediately
herself
clear.
either.
He's
She
hosts
posted
a
it
show called
anonymously.
At Midnight, but I'm not saying.
He's like he's a nerd with millions of dollars or whatever.
I do think it's crazy though, like speaking of unlearning, like I feel like when I grew up I was not taught that like a bad person meant that you had to stop liking their art. Like
No, we all knew Picasso was terrible.
yeah, exactly.
I
And
don't think we did all know that though. I didn't
Did
know
we not
that.
know
I
that?
didn't know that.
I did.
I didn't know that.
and
Yeah.
like Diego Rivera, like, you know, like all this. I feel like I have heard, I mean, now we're referencing like high artists, sort of.
That's fine.
But yeah, now I feel like we used
A
to
lot
just
of
be
these
like,
artists
men
are high
bad.
too.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But I feel like we used to just accept the fact that like men are bad and then just like listen to their art. And so like even if maybe we had known that, it might not have had the same like you can't listen to it anymore. You
Right.
can't like
It's fine that person did that because ultimately he made this amazing thing, and it's worth like
Yes.
it's almost like a kind of like for the greater good thing. Like
Yeah.
somebody can suffer as long as like we can all enjoy, but that's not really
Yeah, exactly.
humanitarian.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's also like it wasn't that long ago when the things that they were doing was legal. You know what I mean? Like you used to be able to rape your wife. You used to be able to hate your wife. Like
Yep.
as long as she was your wife, like do whatever you want with her. You know, like that's what it used to be, and that wasn't that long ago. So it takes like you were saying, it takes a lot of unlearning.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
realize and there's still, I mean, like I'll still listen to the Beatles, but I know John Lennon beat women.
Right.
His
Like,
first wife, yeah.
oh, I didn't even know that.
Like
sorry.
yeah.
and I saw somebody who she's a friend of mine, and she's the Teen Vogue Health and Wellness editor. So she's like super feminist. And she posted a John Lennon quote today, and I was like, you can't do that. But then I was like, I can't police her. Like one of my family members wrote under my Louis C.K. because I was like, I saw Louis C.K. and David Cross, and I screamed, I love you, and whatever. And she was like, what about me too? And I was like, okay, first of all, you can't say this because you vote for Trump again.
Oh,
So
Oh,
don't
she
try
was
to,
saying
don't
that in a
try
way
to
of, like,
hold it-
to pick at you?
pick at me or whatever. And I was
Yeah.
like, don't you dare equate these things because Trump has never created something beautiful or meaningful for anyone.
I don't know
Like,
that gold toilet.
Okay, that's true. Has nothing on my Japanese.
Gave us
toilet.
Omarosa, you know?
Ugh.
I know. That's awful. What did they say when you said that? When you said, I love you?
Well, it was even more awkward than that. I was like, I love you guys. I'm a comic, as if that made sense or
Yeah.
whatever. Like I was like, I still know everything you've done, but this is why. And like and they looked at me like, does she not know what's going on?
They probably
not
thought
know
it was
what
like
we
a
did?
trap.
They
Yeah,
probably thought I was.
fair.
They like turned around and they like first were I think like, is she stupid? Then they were like, is she gonna ask for a photo? And I didn't because
Yeah.
then it also hit me that I was like, wait, this is great. Like I had so many emotions at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they walked away back to whatever apartment they were hanging out
They
at.
just kind of like gave you a weird look.
Yeah,
and, like,
I
went
was
away.
with my friend Caroline and her little infant. Like that's why we were in the park to begin with. And she was like, "Oh, you love those guys? Go get them or whatever." So I chased them, and then the second they left, she sat down next to me and I started hysterically crying. And she was like, "Oh my God, you love them so much." And I was like, "No, I feel really tormented right
Yeah.
now." Like,
oh my God.
Well,
Yeah.
if you saw that, like, if we walk out of this apartment and you see them, would you do
what
that
do
again?
I do? I don't know. Like, what are you supposed to do?
You just go
Be
up
like-
to them and you just go to them and say, I'm really disappointed in you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Molly, you're
There's
going to be such
nothing-
a good mom.
Mr. Burgundy, you are truly a disappointment to us all.
Honestly, I'm not mad. I'm just
disappointed.
Yeah. I really enjoyed your comedy. It meant a lot to me. And what you've done, it hurts us all.
Yeah.
I feel
We're
like
all hurting.
that is like the exact emotion though.
It
really
is.
disappointment.
It is. It's disappointment.
It truly is
It's
because it's like,
God
damn it, I did like your shit.
I know,
Yeah.
and there's that like the constant joke now of like the fear of like, oh my God, please don't let like Tom Hanks be bad or something. Like,
Please
you're
don't
like
let Tom
you're like,
Hanks
come
be
on,
bad.
like or like whoever. You're like, just please, come on.
Yeah,
I feel like Tom Hanks's goodness is like a meme at this
Yeah.
point. It's like, please.
I mean, he can't be.
No, he can't.
100% good. I'm sure he's better than most.
Yeah, I'm going back to
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
women's accounts of horrible things that men have done to them. The whole Dan Harmon thing was really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think he handled it correctly.
Yeah, he did.
And I don't understand why that is so difficult for people to just apologize. Like
Yeah.
to just be like, "Oh, I am the at the end of centuries of patriarchy. Like I am here trying to figure out my place in society and like perhaps I did not engage in this sexual encounter in
Yeah.
the sexiest, most consensual
Yeah.
way."
They
you know?
even were talking about it on the fucking Southern Charm reunion on Bravo. Do you watch Southern Charm?
No, but that's
Okay, but this
a scene.
essentially they like there's a guy who's got a rape allegation out, and we've always known he was bad. Like,
Oh,
but
he's a
then
really bad
he's
man.
a really bad dude. And then finally, like this, like reunion part 1 was like so fucking feminist, and they talk about how like how all of the Me Too stuff has even affected like reality shows, and like Shep Rose, who's like the Playboy, was like, I've been going back and I've been thinking about 20 years worth of sleeping with women and
Yeah.
hooking up with women and things that I've done wrong. Those people, I'm like, thank you.
Right. Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
Because saying sorry is actually not hard for them, and they do it quite often. It's the work that comes after that they're not willing to do, because it means like really figuring out
What's
happened.
wrong.
Yeah.
My thing with the Louis thing also, though, that I think about is like, okay, he's a pervert, right? Like there are people who have perverted tendencies, and I talked about this on one episode about pedophiles. There are people who are, there was a guy, I don't remember who it was, but he came out as saying, I have pedophilic tendencies. I don't want to act on them, but I have them and I don't know what to do. And then he got arrested or whatever because people were like, well, that's what you do. What do you do? Like,
What do you
is
do
there
with people
like I
trying
don't
to be
want to
good?
create
Yeah.
a safe
Yeah.
space for like creeps, but there are creeps. And
Yeah,
how
yeah.
do you deal with
Yeah.
that?
I mean, yeah. So I feel like a question that came up a lot during Me Too is like, what do we do with these men?
Yeah.
Like the ones that like have an affliction and like we can't just like ship them off.
To some island of misbehaved boys.
Yeah, and it's like
I mean, we could.
we could. It's a thought. But I mean,
But they'll still be born. So it's more how do you deal with
Yeah,
it?
you just
first.
keep sending
Just
them.
keep
Yeah.
sending them.
yeah. Or is it born? Is it something that's born, or is it something
Or
that's
something
taught?
that's learned. Yeah.
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 Well, I think stuff like being a pedophile, I think is like you got to be born
Yeah,
with
that you can.
No, that's
I don't.
no. I think
both.
maybe it's
Maybe
both,
it's
but
both.
there are some people who are born with it, and that is I do have like empathy for pedophiles who've never acted on it.
Yeah.
I do think that must be a fucking.
Louis
hard
had
life.
a bit on it about he's like he's like everyone in society hates you, but like you've got this like strong fucking
Right.
urge that like you'd rather that like I don't know whatever. It's,
Yeah.
it's just it's really
It does seem horrible.
yeah and sad but also
Yeah.
I don't want to sympathize
You know.
I mean, I think you should sympathize and empathize, because that's part of like what makes you a decent person is
Yeah.
being able to look at somebody else's struggle and be like, that must be so hard for you.
Yeah.
And like, is there a solution?
yeah
And, you know, there probably isn't one blanket thing to do. Probably access to a therapist
Yep.
would
would
help.
be really nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And making that easier for people would,
Yeah.
you know, put a little
Does
dent.
a therapist have to report if you tell them you're a pedophile?
They have to report if you've done
Acted on
something
it?
or if they feel that you are
will
in danger
do
of
something.
hurting somebody
Oh.
else.
Wow. Okay. Well, that makes it tricky for.
It's very
It's like
tricky.
which therapist can you trust?
Yeah.
And like,
I got
you
a
then
great rapist guy.
right?
But also, like, I mean,
Works on the Upper West Side. You'll love him.
Of course, he works on the Upper West Side.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like if in a world where we give everyone access to perfect mental health,
Yeah.
right? Like, and say everyone's endowed with a therapist from birth, you like begin expressing these thoughts, and then we can like curb them,
Yeah.
or like maybe it has to do with something in your childhood that you can then work through rather than like harbor and turn into a weird situation.
Yeah, I think my boyfriend and I were talking about this because we are very romantic, but we were
Gross.
talking about, but like this idea of, pedophiles who, because yes, I'm sure there are plenty who are born that way.
Also, people who were assaulted,
But
like,
yeah,
where it's a
people
learned
who
behavior.
were assaulted from a young age and never learned that it was wrong, even because it was so common and happened to them that they were like, this must be how love looks or how a relationship is. And don't take, so it's like, I don't know. It's just really hard.
Yeah.
But I mean, that to go back to the question of like, what do we do with these men? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's like the big question. And it's like, yeah, like, people like Louis and the others are like coming around and like, I mean, fucking R. Kelly. Oh, excuse me. Am I supposed to? Not supposed to curse.
Curse however
okay.
you want. Yeah,
R.
we say pussy.
The name of
Pussy.
this podcast is How
Come.
Come?
Yeah.
C-U-M.
You know what? True. But R. Kelly released like a 19-minute song today, like being like called "I Admit" or whatever.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, I did not listen to it because I don't want to.
Yeah.
But from what I can tell, it talks about how he's like illiterate, and it kind of like touches on the Elias stuff, and like it's just like he's someone who gets a super pass. Like I don't understand how he's not been like he's like one of the worst.
Although like Spotify taking down his songs, like
That was
is
great.
a bold
Yeah.
corporate move.
That
like,
was really great. Good for them.
I mean, look, I don't know what the solution is. I know one of the solutions is these people probably shouldn't have power to hire people.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that I always get to in my argument. I'm like, oh, but we're gonna lose. I mean, not but we're gonna lose that person's art or whatever, and we're like, oh, that's really sad. But then you're making room for other people to rise up and have something equally good that you can relate to and stuff. Like, it's not like Woody Allen's the only one who can make comedies about New York that are real. I'm sure I could do it too.
Lena Dunham.
Yeah.
I was just listening to the Jackie and Laurie show, which is like a Jackie Cation and Laurie Kilmartin podcast that I love. And on the way up here, and they were talking about the James Gunn thing, and they put it really well. She was like Laurie
Do you
Kilmartin.
want to recap what that was?
Oh yeah. So James Gunn is the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and this week, all these alt-right trolls searched through his old Twitter feed and found these like horrible, stupid, misogynistic, racist, like rape joke, like all these horrible tweets that he did that were like very bad. And he like, and so they like exposed him, and they were like, haha, you have a bad one too, or whatever, because he's like very anti-Trump, James Gunn is.
Sure.
And so they exposed him, and he like Disney took him off of the next Guardian of the Galaxy movie, and there was this whole thing. So anyway, Laurie Kilmartin's take on it, which is like 100% how I feel. When she said that, I was like, yes. She was like, she basically, just to summarize, she was like, do I feel like this is bad and the alt-right is using like tools that we use against actually bad people, against like not as bad people? Yes. Like, does it seem like he's grown? Yes. However, of all the people that I have to care about, I don't really care about him. You know what I mean? It's like
just found out who he was.
He'll
right
be
now.
fine. He'll be fine. And also it's like there's so many amazing female directors who don't get a fucking chance, and this motherfucker gets so many chances, or some version of him. And it's just like the disparity when it comes to filmmaking with men and women. It's like it's like fine, you'll be fine. You're gonna make money off those movies until you're dead. Like it'll be fine.
I recently saw Ava DuVernay speak, which was
cool.
like honestly a life-changing moment.
Cool.
Like she spoke at the New Yorker Festival, and I had no idea it would be so intense. But it was right before Wrinkle in Time came out, which I have not seen actually.
I saw it.
I know. I mean, that's why I didn't see it, because I was like, I do not want to not love it. But you know, she said this thing. She said, if if this movie doesn't turn out well, they're going to bury me under the studio. And that has to do with the fact that I'm a black woman and I don't get as many second chances as white men do. But I am so happy to see her getting a second chance and like obviously directing Star Wars, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is with A Wrinkle in Time is that the book is fucked up in the first place. Like,
I
read it and I was confused the entire time.
Yeah.
I watched the movie, I was confused the entire time. So it really stayed true to the book. But yeah, no, it sucks that like every woman is like we can do a comedy show, and if you're not funny on that show, women aren't funny anymore to some of the people in that room.
It's so nuts.
Yeah, another thing that I have been thinking a lot about recently, and a friend of mine gave me this perspective, so I want to give her credit, but is trying not to read any books by white men.
Yeah, but the Da Vinci Code is so
Some of them you don't, you gotta keep. But,
I knew a woman who was trying to only consume female media, which is
Badass.
Brittany Hunt, comic in New Orleans. I don't know how long it lasted her, but it's very
know.
You'll
hard to
see a
do.
lot more
Determined.
exclamation points if you're
I feel like that's a little bit like
relate.
trying to avoid Kanye though. Like every time
know.
I'm trying to avoid Kanye right now, and because I feel like that's one of the ways I can like contribute as a white person to this debate is just like don't give him any money.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I keep listening to like different like hip hop that's coming out, and I'm like, oh man, this Pusha T album is so tight. And they're like, no, he produced it. No, same with Nas. And it's like,
Just keep like tripping into
yeah,
Kanye.
you like you have no idea how
Yeah.
deep this goes.
You're like,
kind of
oh my
thing.
god, this new Beyonce album title, damn it.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
And not to go back to race, but I'm going to. When I was younger, like obviously, like the incarceration rate or rate for black people is so much higher than it is for white people. And I used to think all the time, like I'd be watching my friends doing coke in high school or whatever, and I'd be like, this is not fair. Like it is not fair that like black kids and Hispanic kids and whatever other minorities don't get to have their coke years. And as like stupid as that sounds, like you need time to figure out who you and not necessarily to do illegal things, but we get such a fucking pass.
That is
You
so
do
true.
need time
You
to
know,
yeah.
like
No, and it continues on forever. Like my mom is a family court judge in Queens, and she sees like constantly like people come in front of her when they're like trying to get their kids back from child protective services or whatever, and like she'll tell us stories about how like it'll just be like they found weed in the house or whatever.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like my mom will go back to our Park Slope like yuppie building, and there's like so many couples that smoke weed. You know what I
100%.
mean? And it's like.
and you'll hear older like our parents' generation or whatever, especially if they're on the more conservative side, being like, well, they shouldn't have been doing it. It's like, well, you wouldn't say
Yeah.
that if I was the one caught.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Or
did.
if
It would
it was
be
one
like
of your
she's
friends
a
or
child.
something. Yeah,
Literally, have you seen the Josh Hader tweets? Do you guys? Okay, so I've been watching Sports Center for. Some
Oh yeah,
fucking
yeah,
reason.
that guy, and they gave him a. Oh my god,
Who's Josh
It
Hader?
is. This
This
is
fucking
not fucking.
sports
He's
man.
a baseball player, and they found all these tweets, like viciously racist tweets from
just like
him.
the N word,
a lot,
a lot, and
from-
a lot of stuff about like rapey like
Yeah.
stuff and like homophobic stuff,
and
he
he said
intense.
he was 17, so you can't hold him responsible or whatever. But and then he returns to the team and gets a standing ovation by all these people. And I got a Fox News alert because I'm sadistic, but it was like showing the liberals that like with a standing ovation. It's like,
my
wait,
God.
what? Like you're
That shit
actively
makes me
saying that you just love racism now? Like that's
If it
Fox
means-
News' shit.
If it means making liberals mad, then yeah.
Oh
then
my
yeah.
god,
They don't even have.
How
That's
does it get
literally the
better?
whole. They don't have like a platform. It's just tick off liberals.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. This podcast is coming out late enough that I can say this. So my boyfriend is trolling right now, and he's pretending he's a flat earther, and he's doing it for a week.
Got it.
And yeah, you've seen the. You're like, is
I was
Ben
like,
really
Remy,
a flat? Yeah,
I know he makes you come,
but
like,
yeah, but no. I mean, I
my
used
God,
to
what
yell
would
at
you do
girls
if a
for
flat-
dating Trump supporters. Like if he was a flatter, it's there's
Oh,
no.
God.
But what we've come to is there's no reason to believe in that shit unless you want to troll and just get under somebody's skin.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
there's no reason there would be a conspiracy. But we think now we're like every flat earther is just a troll. It's
Yeah.
just someone who wants to make someone else angry
And wants attention.
I have
wants
never
attention.
encountered a real flat earther
Well,
on the internet.
God bless you.
There's one on The Bachelorette this season.
Oh,
Wait,
of course.
really?
This was just a random guy. His name was Lincoln, and he was very kind of weird. But then in one
Lincoln's
episode,
weird.
briefly, he's just like, yeah, he's like from South Africa or something, or I don't know where. He has a sort of a British accent. And he's like, yeah, I think the Earth is flat, and all the other guys are like, what?
Yo, what? I had no idea.
It was
that people
very
still
fun.
thought that.
Yeah.
I feel like every day I'm surprised by how much everybody doesn't know, including myself. I'm like, oh shit, I had no idea. Like,
But I think flat
learned a lot.
earthers also just want to dismantle any trust you have in any authority. Like they just want fucking anarchy. Because like you'll tell a flat earther, no, actually science has proven, and well, you
Right.
can't
We have
believe them. You
photos.
have to do your
Yeah.
own
We have
experiments.
pictures.
They're
We have
doctored. They're doctored. Everything's doctored.
my
and
God.
it's basically don't believe any
Anything.
knowledge, anyone. Like ever. Like
It's like anti-vaxxers.
it's really nuts. But yeah, Ben is not a flat earther. A lot of people have been writing to me. They're like, "Are you okay? Like, are you guys gonna break up?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm not okay." I'm really leaning into it.
That's great.
But I've been filming him the whole time, like where he's like, "Yo, I found the best." He's just been cutting and pasting flat earther things on his own. It's amazing.
That's so funny.
fun.
It is funny though how there are people who like, you know, it's like on Facebook I'll see some, and I've been like I've actively been trying to like be on Facebook less, and it's made my life much happier. But every now and then I used to like come across somebody from high school and I'd be like, oh my God, like we had so much fun in high school. Like you weren't really in my friend group. We were sort of peripheral, but like we had a class together. You gave me a ride home once, whatever. It was so fun, so fun. And then you just like watch them devolve into some weird conspiracy and you're like, what happened?
Yeah.
Where did things go wrong? Like
Yeah.
where was the switch for you that you were like, yeah, I can logically make this happen? Like
It's just like, why? And also, what's on the bottom of flat Earth?
hell,
That is
Remy.
a
What's
great
it's
question.
hell.
It's hell. Good point.
Oh
Dating
my
as
God.
like while running this feminist platform is a fucking shit show.
Oh my
just-
God.
Tell me more.
Yeah,
It's
tell us
just a
about it.
Tell me
nightmare.
everything.
Like no one.
When do you tell them?
I put
That
it
you
in
hate
my
them?
profile.
Good. It's a good sifter.
It is
Yeah.
a good
It's a good
sifter.
sifter, yeah.
I think a lot of people don't really know what it means, or they're just like, "Oh, she has a lot of followers, so I don't care."
Right.
It's just like we can talk about what it's for later, but yeah, I mean, I think it's just given me like higher standards about sex and like.
It's not a bad
everything.
thing.
That's
It's not
so
a bad
good.
thing, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can always tell who a guy is. I mean, I'm sure you guys too when you tell them about
I have
your
herpes.
podcast.
Oh, yeah.
That's
For me,
something we
it's when
talked
on the
about last
first
time.
on the first date, I'm like, I have herpes, and they're like, if they're okay with it, then cool.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a nice little litmus test.
No, or
but
if
also
I-
the podcast.
But also
Yeah.
but if I say, yeah, I run a podcast that's centered on the female orgasm, you'll either get a face that's like, oh, cool, that's so interesting,
Yeah.
and you're like, I could talk to this guy forever, or there's a guy being like, what?
The what?
The what? Yeah, literally the what?
That's a hoax.
Do
So
you want
it's-
on
yeah.
unicorns too? You little cutie.
I had this like crazy sexual encounter recently that was just incredibly consensual, and I realized I realized this has never happened to
Yeah,
me. It was sort of like a it was like a every step of the way asking like, how does this feel? How are you? Like can we go in there? Like, what do you like? And you would think that it's almost over questioning, but
Yeah.
like there's like nothing sexier than someone asking you how you feel. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
The first
awesome.
time I was asked like, "What do you like?" I froze because I was like, "I have no idea what I like."
I always
whatever
freeze.
you like.
Yeah,
do.
I don't know.
Put your fingers in my
It's
holes.
like
I guess.
normal sex,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then you're like, "No, I get it now."
I feel like that's why I gave like so many blowjobs growing up, because I was like, that's what guys like.
that's what
they
like.
That's what
Used
they
to
like.
swallow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still do.
Can you
that.
believe?
Am I not supposed to? Is that not?
You do whatever you want,
You're right.
I feel
but
like
it's
I
cleaner.
It's
never.
not worth the calories.
Yeah.
I know. I feel like I used to be much better at like giving a blowjob to completion, and I account for it because in college I was in theater school and I did so many like jaw
Vocal
exercises.
exercises.
I think my now my jaw hurts. I'm like too old. I'm like, I don't know. You should have caught me in my
Like
early
Mommy, maybe
20s.
mash my M&Ms. Oh my!
I know. I need to do some warm ups or something. I don't know. It's like takes forever.
Okay, ready to blow you. Were you? I assume. I shouldn't assume. Can you come?
Yes. I
Okay,
can.
great.
I can actually by penetration.
Wow.
Yes.
Do you know what that means?
Do I know what does it
You're
mean?
in the 8% of women.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lucky
Are you
lady.
also?
I'm not.
Okay,
No,
I thought not.
I'm just proud of you.
Okay, great. I was like, whoa.
So does that mean like any position?
Kinda. I don't really like keep track of which position, so I
Wow.
guess.
Does
So
it
you-
matter if they have less length or girth?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. Because it
Yeah.
has to hit a certain spot.
Yeah, and I guess positions where like I'm also getting clitoral stimulation are better.
You like it at
course.
the same time?
Yeah. I mean, that's ideal, right? Like
Yeah,
they
I know,
make,
some
they make
people get, like,
vibrators for that
distracted.
purpose.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I
yeah. Oh,
agree.
distracted.
I
Interesting.
agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long have you been coming for?
Oh man, I was actually trying to remember this because I
first
thought this
time?
might come up.
Yeah.
I don't remember the first time, but I'm sure that it was that I did it, and I'm sure I had no idea what happened.
Great.
Like I was thinking though about like the first time that I saw a female orgasm depicted on screen.
When was that?
Because it was during The Hills Have Eyes. Have you guys seen
Oh
The
my
Hills.
god.
No, oh god, I wish.
LC gets it.
Yeah.
Audrina was just like looking at the ceiling like, oh God.
Yeah, I'm like, oh well, that's how you're supposed to orgasm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I remember it because it was like the first time I learned that existed, and maybe I think when I put it together that that's what happened to me, or like that's what I do at night. It was like this. Have you guys seen that movie?
I haven't.
No.
No.
It's horrific, and I actually don't remember any of it, but because I stopped watching after the scene because it was sort of like the porn is over, like you don't have to,
Right.
or like you came, you don't have to watch the rest of the porn.
Yeah.
But there are all these monsters in the hills, and they the main character like goes back to the house, like all her friends stay out, and they're like drinking outside, and she like goes to masturbate in her bed. She has like a master date. Have you heard that term?
No.
This is my new favorite term. It's like when you like
You
know
set a
you're going to
time for
masturbate,
yourself?
and and you
yeah.
like light the candles and like.
I didn't know that's what it was called, but it's my favorite thing.
Yeah, it's a
Date.
good thing. It's a very good thing. But she has one of those and like does one of those, and like her friends die outside while she's masturbating. But I remember just like not
So a longer
caring.
date then.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. She doesn't notice because she's like so into herself.
Wow.
But that, I mean, it saved her ultimately.
It did. That's a metaphor if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. Oh no, this coming saved my life. I like now,
Yeah.
like I was in like a very like childhood forever state of mind. I was like, I'm just never going to grow up. And now I'm like, oh, I can pay taxes. I don't care. I'm down.
My awakening was Undressed on MTV. Did you ever watch
Oh
that?
yes.
Did you guys ever watch it?
I know it existed.
I don't think I know what
that
that
was
is.
like, because my parents would either they would go to bed, like in the summer, I would stay up late and watch it. And I think they like went out of town a couple of times, and I had like a terrible babysitter who showed me American Pie when I was 10, or not American Pie, American Beauty when I was like 10.
Oh God.
But I specifically remember like learning what an orgasm was from watching Undressed on MTV. It came on at like midnight.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
I used to sneak MTV Spring Break, and that was like semi porn.
Yeah, it is. It's softcore. Like
It was softcore,
Yeah.
sensible, listening, twerking bodies.
I was like a very horny little girl. I started rubbing up against the playground at like 7 or 8. There was like this one part of the playground where the tire swings were, and one day I just realized that if I kind of climb up it, I was like, I love this.
For me, it was the corner of the bed.
Yeah, and I would just be like on the playground, like I love the tires. I mean, it was probably really gross in
But would you
retrospect.
finish?
No, like that was just like
It
that
was just
never when I
like,
finished.
this
I don't-
feels good.
Yeah.
But then I probably just started like doing it on my own, like in my room or whatever, early. I can't remember the first time, but it was early.
I feel like if I don't know what is wrong. Maybe no, I do know what's wrong with me because I can make it happen with my hand now, but I didn't have the tools and I didn't know that you have to go like like it takes me a really long time with my hand. Like it's like fucking 20 minutes.
I can't really use my hand anymore.
And I'm lazy.
I feel
I'm
bad
a lazy
about.
person. I've never been good at sports because like I can't edit an essay. I can't finish coming.
Yeah.
Like
So much work.
but yeah, I feel like if I had known that, I could have been coming really early because there
Yeah.
was always a hand down there.
Yeah. My first I remember I was 14. I was at my grandmother's house in Florida,
Nice.
sleeping on the couch, and Eyes Wide Shut came on, which and it was like specifically the orgy scene, and I like didn't really know what I was watching, but and I remember like, because I thought I had before, like I thought I had finished before, and I had not.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, you keep going.
Well, that's the thing, because like sometimes it'll happen very little, and I'm like, you're just supposed to know. But what's difficult for women is that we can do it so
You can keep going,
you can just keep
kind of
going.
forever. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like I'm just I don't know. Like, do
like
you
when
keep
you're
going
over it.
until you're just until like you're fine.
For me, it's
Yeah.
when it hurts.
Okay. Yeah. When it
At a
starts
certain
chafing.
point. No, just at a certain point, it's like too sensitive and it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that happens to me too.
That's when I'm
Okay.
done,
So
which
that's
is
when you're
usually
done.
pretty quick, actually.
Yeah.
For me, it's not. I'm not a like keep going over and over again. I wish I was.
I feel like the right just has like such good language. Like, for example, pro-life. Like I
Yeah.
too feel like I am pro-life.
Right.
I support the life of women,
Yes.
and I want these children to have good lives, and I don't want families being separated at the border. You know, I want like things that are alive to
feel good. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can get into the details of that, but like America First, that's an awesome
That they have
tagline.
amazing
Right.
rhetoric, and also just
Yeah.
going back to the troll thing. I think they've all taught each other what to say to
Yeah.
people in
Yeah.
situations, and
Yes.
just like the flat earthers, like Ben was like, "Oh, I'm going to reply this," because it's not actually responding to the question that they asked. You bring up something completely else just to piss them off and get
Yeah.
them off topic. So
Right.
really, there's no discussion going on.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like, it's like, okay, so I'm from Kentucky, and when they did the first time that
There's
they
only one abortion clinic in Kentucky.
correct,
Oh,
it's
I've
in
seen
Louisville.
that documentary.
But when they did their healthcare website the first time, the good way, they intentionally made it at a 4th grade reading level because they wanted to make it as accessible as possible.
Right.
And I feel like Republicans are very good at talking at a 4th grade reading level.
Yes. Yes.
Whereas the Democrats were like, we're going to call our thing the better deal, which is like, are you making a New Deal reference
Yeah.
to people
Oh my God.
in Indiana? Like, are you fucking crazy?
Yeah.
Their new one is
We're
better
gonna bring
though.
back the fireside chats.
Their new slogan for the Democrats, this was like last week it came out, which is "for the people," which I actually
That
think
is
is
good.
better.
Okay.
It's way better
Yeah,
than
solid.
a better deal.
That's pretty
For
good.
the people is pretty
That's
good.
pretty
good.
It's got that like sort of
But there
populist
is something
thing.
we love talking down to people too, and like being right and like using big words. You can't.
I
Yeah.
know.
That,
I'm so
like-
scared for the like way that we're gonna divide. Like I just feel like the like we're not gonna come together.
People are always like,
It's
"Oh
gonna
my
be so
God,
scary."
America would never." Well, what are you talking about? Like nation boundaries aren't real. America was only created 200 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yes.
Just I don't know.
So stupid.
I saw a protest sign at the March for Our Lives that said, "We understand nuance," and I was like, "Oh my God, that is the left. Like, that is our motto. Is
Yeah.
like, we get nuance, and we're here to talk to you about gray areas." And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, who's gonna vote for
And
that?
to fight amongst ourselves over nuance and
Yeah.
gray
Yeah.
I
areas.
also
Yes,
think it's
exactly.
not entirely fair. Just like have you guys watched the Sacha Baron Cohen
No
thing?
need to.
I understand the criticism. Like all of that is valid, but in the first episode, there's something really interesting where he one of his characters is like an NPR like very liberal like whatever dude. And he goes and has dinner with this Republican couple.
Wow, that couple. Yeah,
yeah, you watched it.
yeah.
Yeah, and like
I watched it. I loved it. Then I saw the screen where I saw he has no female writers, and I was like, God damn it!
Yeah.
But I was like, you couldn't find one.
I know.
You couldn't find one.
I'm available.
so fucking available.
But like, okay, so he
It's
goes and has
nuts.
dinner with this Republican couple. They're just like, I mean, the husband is clearly closeted,
And the
but-
woman is a beard. Like I've never seen a
Yes,
clearer beard in my
1,000%.
life. It's wild.
But they are, he goads them, and they stay so open-minded and like tolerant of this guy saying the craziest shit. And they're, you know, at one point the husband like even tries to, he's just like, are you kidding me? And she's like, honey, we have to be open-minded. We have to, and it's this thing of like, yeah, they're not all fucking idiot racists,
Right.
which we like to paint them to
Right.
be. And I understand why we do, because the people who lead them are. But like the people who vote for them are not. And they're not these like idiots.
Well, they're not.
necessarily.
They have a politeness enough that they let this man in their home and they're in front of cameras, and so they're not going to like kick him out, which they could have, right? They were polite to him, but I don't think that discounts like the horror of what they believe in, like,
Right.
and the
No, of
racism
course
that they
not.
have. Like, they are still racists, and they're still like not
The family in Get Out
You know,
treats
I
that
don't
guy
know.
so
No,
kind.
that's not what my takeaway was. Not that. My takeaway was like, I was surprised they didn't kick him out, but I felt like that was more just like Southern hospitality.
They're
than
better
anything
at being
else, which is like
composed
fine,
sometimes.
but I don't think that means that they're not like very wrong.
I'm not saying that they're not very wrong, or that they're not racist, or that they're not closed-minded. I'm saying that they are not these idiots that we like to paint them to be, necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I like white privilege was something I started learning about after I started this Instagram. Like, I literally had no idea. I basically had no idea that I was white. Like,
Right.
I just had never really thought about myself as like as something that was not the default in
Yeah.
any way.
Yeah.
And I started
Skin color. If you
Yeah.
have a Crayola, skin color's our
color.
color.
Yeah.
You know, and then
Yeah.
anything else is other.
flesh.
Yeah.
Is like
Right.
yeah, it's like no, that's white flesh.
There's
like,
Barbie, then there's black Barbie.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
there.
yeah. And I think like going back to this thing of why you should not read white men is because well, on occasion you can.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Oh, yeah.
But
Sorry, we got so far off.
Well, I forgot, but now it's relevant again. But white men are not forced to think about the world like they're not forced to see themselves as part of a group. They can walk through the world as individuals and
Yeah.
experience everything as like
Yeah.
it only happens to me, which leads to these like merit-based societies that are in our dreams. And you know, and I think like as white women, like all of us are, we're like very privileged in the fact that we can feel oppressed, but also understand what it looks like.
Yeah.
Like when we do it to other people. Like
Yeah.
we have a really
An empathy.
yeah, we have a spot for empathy that like white men just don't get.
And they're
'Cause, like,
almost-
But then
I
there's
mean-
so many white women who don't take it
Oh,
and go the
yeah, for
opposite
sure.
way.
Totally.
that doesn't mean that like, we all do it
I
right.
think but I think you're right. That's a very positive way to look at it. White women get a lot of shit these days, and usually we deserve it. But I think that's a nice way to be like,
we definitely deserve it.
we gotta go the other way.
yeah, but I think it's like why we're well equipped for this learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can say like, well, how do you feel when this happens to you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's how it feels for this person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In like a different scenario.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's hard to
I
compare.
saw somebody wrote that they're teaching children about white privilege in elementary schools or whatever, and
In
then
Canada.
obviously there was a barrage of people being like, "Why do you have to tell them about this?" and like reinforce racism or whatever, and it's like, no. Like that's not. I don't think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to be like, hey, for some kids, life is harder. Like I even know people like in my fucking family. Like when somebody would get shot and they're black or whatever, and they're like, well, what were they wearing? A hoodie? And I'm like, can I wear a hoodie out?
Right.
Is that cool? Like,
Did you ever see that video? It's like it looks like it's like at a summer camp. It's a bunch of kids like lined up on one side of a football field, and on the other side is a guy saying like, okay, we're gonna have a foot race. The first person to reach me gets like $100 bill. But we're gonna do this thing first. Like take one step forward if both of your parents are still together.
yeah.
And so a bunch of people, and then take one step forward if you know that you're gonna be able to go to college regardless of your athletic ability. You know, and so on and so forth. And then he goes, all right, so like look around. This is what privilege looks like. And like it's not your fault. This is the circumstance that you were born into, but you see that it gives you this head start in life.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that we're not going to have this race. We're still going to have this race, but like look behind you, and those people have to work so much harder just to get to where you're starting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such a good like visual representation
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, that is.
there's
good.
there's a show on Netflix that's done by Vox right now, and it's out, and they're actually doing a profile on How Come.
Hey, baby.
Shout out. But it's called Explained, and every episode is an issue in our world, and one of them is the racial wealth divide. And if you have any questions, and if you're like, oh, fuck that, that's not like, if you're sitting at home being like, I don't agree with the things that you're saying, just watch the episode. It's really great for like, it'll get your thinking juices flowing, and it shows, they show both sides of every argument. But yeah, our episode is called The Pleasure Gap. And
That's awesome.
yeah, either out now or soon.
It's very cool.
I've
It was
kept
so
you guys
bad.
way longer than we were supposed to because we
Yeah.
just got really
Yeah.
into ourselves
delightful.
and the world. But Ariel, can you remind us where to find you on social media?
At Ariel S. Elias. So
Okay.
it's Ariel, just my name, and then the letter S, and then Elias, Elias.
Perfect. Molly Rubenlong.
At Molly Rubenlong.
And your podcast.
At Well Behaved Pod. And you can find it on
iTunes.
iTunes, Google Play,
all the things.
everything.
Just called Well Behaved.
Perfect. Jen?
At Girl Power Supply is the feminist blog that we've been talking about. And
On
then
Instagram?
On Instagram, yes. And you can follow me on Twitter or on my personal handle if you want to. If you're not a Trump supporter and you want to slide into the DMs, at Generous with a J.
Perfect. I have to ask this at the end of every episode. Did you finish, Jen?
Yes.
Yes. Good. Molly, did you finish?
Yes.
Amazing. Ariel, did you finish?
Yeah.
Okay.
It hurts.
You guys, this has been awesome. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time on
Thanks,
How
Sammy.
Come. Goodbye.
It's not you, it's me. I try so hard to finish honestly. They say you'll know when you go all the way from A right down to O. Oh no, I think that I still got a ways to go. Oh, I'm sick of this and I have got to know. How come? How come? How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna just...
So if you want to listen to extras of this episode where we get even more militant, go to patreon.com/howcome for extras. They should be up Wednesday. I've been a little late on extras. They'll always come up eventually. But yeah, as you can tell by when we said some of the dates in this episode, this one was recorded a while ago. I'm currently in Europe. But yeah, I'm gonna get home on Tuesday and hopefully have extras up Wednesday. All right, see you soon. Bye.